States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, Madam Clerk, I note the presence of a quorum. Do you concur?
I confirm the presence of a quorum.
And we have an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay. So with the agenda, we have a special guest this evening, State Representative Cindy Abrams. We have her at the beginning. Then we'll have public comment right after that. So let's look at our minutes from the prior meeting, which were circulated to everyone. Are there any questions about the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Sorry, yes, I have an amendment.
You do?
Amy brought it up. Kathy Ryan was not at the last meeting, but she's marked as present.
Okay.
So we need a friendly amendment to mark her as absent.
Very good. So is there a motion to approve the amendment to show that Kathy Ryan was not present for that meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that's approved. And now is there a motion to approve the minutes, including that friendly amendment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the motion for the minutes is approved. Okay. Having that bit of business done, let us start with our presentation, public comment with Representative Cindy Abrams.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, and thank you for allowing me just a few minutes today. I promise I will be under the 5 minutes to give a quick State House update. It's what I do. I try to visit every city, township, village, and school board meeting in my district to at least, really the main point is to give an update, but truly to take questions from all of you at the end. And if there's anything that the state can help in any of your departments here within Glendale, that's what I'm here for. All right, so taxes. We want to talk about taxes, right? What do they say? There's two things that you do in life: die and pay taxes, right? Not in that order. At the state level, we are proud to, we've flattened and simplified the tax brackets down to 2. So that flattening the 2 brackets saves Ohioans $1 billion. So we're on the road to cutting taxes, obviously, to try to offset some of this inflation caused by the federal level. We understand property taxes went up, especially here in Hamilton County. I live in Harrison. We've lived there for 24 years. And the value of our house just in this last year alone went up $110,000, which was, again, in the 24 years that we've lived there, it was quite the hike. So we get it, we understand it, and at the state level, the Speaker and the Senate President started a joint property tax study commission. I'm not on the committee, but Senator Bill Blessing is, and their job is to study, quite frankly, how we collect property tax, what we do with that money, and at the end of the day, how we can try to help Ohioans essentially stay in their homes. I mean, I know as I was knocking doors, I talk to people and they're devastated. Like, they're retired on, fixed income, and they're like, we don't want to leave our home, we want to stay here. So our goal is people can stay and age in their homes. So we're working on that at the state level. There's a whole variety of different bills. I'm sure you've heard of some of them that are about this property tax issue. There's probably about 15 bills floating around between the House and the Senate. So this joint study commission is to actually try to take all of that into account, all the members' ideas, and try to figure out what we're going to do about it. There was a bill about veterans. We indexed the homestead exemption, indexed it to inflation, and we're also looking at letting disabled veterans, anywhere from 50 to 90% disabled, take a larger homestead exemption there in their homes. So again, a lot going on with the subject of taxes. Fair school funding, of course. I know this is not school board, but we will talk about school funding. I will say that last General Assembly, Speaker Cupp, he was a former Supreme Court Justice. He took his whole entire 8-year time in the House to try to figure out the way Ohio funds schools and to make it constitutional. And we did just that with the fair school funding formula. Now, of course, I will say, no matter what it is, no matter what board you sit on, I don't think there's never, quite frankly, enough, right, to go around. But at the end of the day, we at the state gave each school district, with their input, anybody that touched education was around the table to study this. And again, it's called the Fair School Funding Formula, and we have funded the schools, at least, it's not unconstitutional anymore. Now, is it enough money? Well, there's always that debate that we can have. But at the end of the day, the former speaker took it upon himself to figure out what to do with that. So we did that. Cincinnati-related budget points, I was very proud to help secure $3 million for our Hamilton County Regional Safety Complex. I'm sure you have heard about it. Chief is shaking his head. This is going to be an absolute amazing training facility for our police departments here. It's not going to just serve Hamilton County and the city. It's going to serve every single jurisdiction in this whole entire county. It'll be state of the art, and I do believe they're breaking ground here very, very shortly. So the state, again, contributed $3 million from our capital budget. In the actual operating budget, we dedicated $80 million to our law enforcement assistance fund. Again, $13.5 billion for state infrastructure. I will say, as far as police and fire, there's plenty of grants available that I'm sure you're taking advantage of. And if you're not, I'm happy to steer you towards them, because like I said, we at the state level, especially me, I have a special place in my heart for our first responders, because I was one. So anyway, I serve as the chair of Criminal Justice Committee. I also serve on Finance Committee, Labor and Commerce, and Homeland Security. In my committee, Criminal Justice, we have passed a lot of different bills that, quite frankly, just affect your safety. So one of the bills that wasn't in my committee but was born out of my trip to the southern border a couple of years ago was House Bill 230, and it's in the Senate right now. It passed out of the House, 80 yeses to 13 noes. I was very proud of that. And what it does is we're trying to deal with this fentanyl epidemic.
Ms. Abrams, we've hit that 5-minute limit.
Oh, have we? All right, I'll be
Yes,
quick.
we have.
Basically, in my committee, we're dealing with everything from the catalytic converter theft, obviously, that everybody deals with, devastating, people stealing that. Sextortion, again, a ridiculous crime that is mostly affecting our youth. But I am not necessarily here to give you an additional update, but I am here to take your questions if there's anything specific that you want to know from me. Thank you, Mayor, members of
Okay, very
council.
good.
Happy to stand for questions.
All right. Are there questions from council for Ms. Abrams? I think the last time we had Ms. Driehaus here, we had some questions, but anybody have questions on behalf of Glendale?
I don't.
No.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you do, you know where to find me. All
Very
right.
good.
Thank you,
for
Mayor.
your time
Thank you.
today.
Thank you.
Tell Doug I said hi.
I will.
Okay. Very good. All right. At this point then, is there anyone else that wishes to address council?
My name is Kevin Parrish, resident of Village of Glendale. Actually, instead of really addressing council, I'd like to address the viewing audience and residents of the Village of Glendale. Seems like we have some issues with clarity of the Phase 1 sanitary sewer project that I claim was not completed on code. Council seems to think different and tells many lies about that the work that was contracted was completed. On that street, you will see that this is the type of pipes that are under our streets because of the negligence of the Village of Glendale in servicing our system. And now we operate under a system that is 70 years past due from its certificate of certification of the materials that are up under it. I took the Village of Glendale to court about that. And for anyone interested in reading that file, documentation and many pictures, this is where you would search. It's amazing of the incompetency that we have in record keeping, especially the contracts, because before I took them to court, I requested public information about contractors who were digging up our streets, and we didn't and couldn't identify them. We lost records, or I should not say we, but the Village of Glendale and its administration could not produce records of the pre-construction sign-in sheet, which would list all contractors and subcontractors that worked on this project. Not only that, they lost financial records, and when I brought a picture of me taking pictures on site of a contractor digging up our streets, they could not identify them. Asked them for financial records of when they finished and completed this project, of why they could not produce records of us getting a kickback because of, out of the 283 feet of pipe that was supposed to be put on the replacement of this pipe. Now, bear in mind that on this project, Phase 1 Sanitary Sewer Project, the code was the only street earmarked for a 100% replacement of the pipe because it was 100% blocked. There's at least 150 feet worth of pipe left on top of the ground after they completed this project. If that was the case, then we should have got a kickback for materials unused on that street, of materials bought that were unused that should have been kicked back to us. That didn't happen. But more disturbing was the fact that I asked for public records material that the village said that they did not have. This is a picture of their, in the administration building, of a meeting that I called to view files that they had, that I requested later, that they said they did not have. In this picture is their lawyer that represented them at the time, sitting at the table with these documents. When you blow this picture up, you can see the headings on these files that mysteriously got lost. This is the type of administration that I deal with, to the fact that I have to take them to court for public records. I don't know if it's because I'm a black resident or is this for all residents.
You have about a minute.
But I do know that it's unfortunate that these records were in the possession of the Village of Glendale in the administrative office, and then all of a sudden they were not. This is something that shouldn't happen with our business, because it makes our business sloppy. But if it's intentional, then that is something other than sloppiness. That's conspiracy. I brought this to present this to the public because every time I come on a monthly basis to this council, what I say falls on deaf ears. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Is there anyone else that wishes to address council? Seeing no one, we'll move on to reports. At this point, David, can you give us some information about this particular case? I think the case has been settled, and about how many years ago this occurred, and just the basic facts about the repair of that pipe.
So the line on Cole was repaired by a method called pipe bursting, where essentially a balloon was inserted into the sanitary sewer pipe. It was inflated as it traveled along the pipe, which broke up the old pipe. Immediately behind it was replaced with new PVC. The comments this evening about that project not being completed are incorrect. There is video evidence of the new pipe that has been installed. That video evidence has been presented to the gentleman that made those comments.
That's the bullshit that I put up with every year. no trough marks on that street, which shows
Mr.
how
Parrish,
pipe
public
replacement is
comment,
done.
Mr. Parrish, public
So-
comment is
Trough marks
finished.
on the
So
street
the
of
benefits
how
of
the
pipe
pipes are
bursting,
supposed to be replaced.
the benefit of pipe bursting is that it does not create a track of cut pavement along the street, but rather two areas that are removed to allow for access to the pipe that are,
283 feet,
I will,
100 feet left out.
Mr. Parrish, you're now interrupting a public meeting.
Keep on saying these lies, I'm gonna keep on saying. You know you're lying. That's the whole thing.
Chief.
You keep coming and lying to the public about things that are
Mr.
undone.
Mr.
We live
Parrish,
on that area.
You are now interrupting a public meeting.
Of course I am.
Where Mr.
Because it's
where
necessary.
Mr. Lumsden is
You
explaining.
never reply to me, but afterwards you want to reply to try to act like you're doing
Mr.
something. You're not
Lumsden
doing
is
nothing.
explaining to the public what actually happened in this instance, and I'd like for him to
I'm not
continue.
trying to help. I need to get arrested to make it a public documentation because they know they're lying. The same way you're lying about
I
Summit
don't
Park.
think you need to be arrested, Mr. Parrish. You're a resident of this community.
For a
and
long
we
time. Don't tell us that you did what you're supposed to do. It says it was supposed to be line replacement, not sleeved. Replacement.
it is a replacement with a new PVC line.
All right, so go ahead,
I
Mr.
can,
Lumsden,
that
please.
truly
continue.
is the beginning and the end of it, is that the existing clay line was burst and replaced with new PVC. Video inspection of that was provided to Mr. Parrish. Shows a brand new PVC line along Cole Avenue. It was the only section that was replaced. The others were a method called lining, where a pink material is applied to the inside of the pipe, which fills cracks, fills offset areas. Those were done to other sewer projects, other sewer sections in the project. This line was replaced by pipe bursting. It was the only line replaced by pipe bursting. There were sections of PVC pipe that were on the job site that were not used. The village was not billed for that material because it was not used in the project. It was carried away by the contractor to be used elsewhere. And the additional material is pretty standard when you're doing a job like this with underground utilities, to bring more on site than you need, and rather than having to shut the job down and go off site to get more the next day. So I'm sure that to someone else it might appear as if it wasn't installed, but I can absolutely assure you that it was as part of that sanitary sewer project.
And there was a suit by Mr. Parrish. What was the result of that?
There was a suit by Mr. Parrish regarding public records, and without our attorney here, I don't want to say too much, but to say that the village was not found to be liable for failure to provide any public records to Mr. Parrish.
And were the records we had provided to Mr. Parrish?
They were,
Okay.
on multiple occasions.
And the records
Both
shown-
copies, both copies and in person
and in person.
were provided to him.
And the records shown on the table, he had access to.
Those records were provided when I was not with the village.
All right.
The attorney photographed there is Mr. David Shaver, who was an attorney with affiliated with the village's insurance company. But as far as the records that I provided to him, if my recollection serves, were more plentiful than those records that he showed in the photograph. But all those records that were available were provided. Of course, records that did not exist or were not created were not provided. That's impossible to do. But all the records relative to Mr. Parrish's requests were provided to him.
Thanks, David.
Yep.
I'll continue with the mayor's report, and then we'll go to the official administrator report. I just feel that when statements are made about village activity that are incorrect, it should be corrected so that people understand
Thank you, Mayor.
what's going on. So for the mayor's report, there were no births to report. There were, however, 3 deaths in the community. All 3 wonderful residents that had been in Glendale for a while. And the first is Christine Mae Williams, passed away on September 9th at the age of 92. We can all hope to be so lucky to live that long. Gail Denise, wonderful person, participated in many village activities and volunteered for in many different roles. Passed on September 22nd at the age of 82. And most recently, just a few days ago, Kevin Malloy Again, same longstanding community member, raised his family here, involved in many different activities, both as a volunteer and various clubs around the community. Kevin Malloy passed on October 3rd at the age of 70. So for these people, may we have a moment of silence. May they rest in peace. On to more good news about our village. Recently, this weekend, we had our Barktoberfest at our HWB Community Center, done in conjunction with them and the library. Big success, lots of people, lots of dogs. It was just a wonderful day for everybody. So thanks to all the volunteers who participated in that and everybody who brought their pooches. Mine did not go. I have one that can be a little bit alpha when he gets around other dogs. Coming up, some residents have organized a hurricane relief fund, and I think Mr. Kreidler knows more about it, but I believe it is monetary donations and then donations of goods, whether that be toilet paper, paper towels, canned goods, boxed goods. And that will be starting tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Village Square. You can drop off items between, I believe, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Correct.
So we have these from time to time when there are natural disasters, and let's make it another good Glendale turnout.
All the details are on the Friday night email that we
Yes.
received, but it has to be new clothing.
New clothing, if
cannot
you
be-
donate clothing, new
Even
clothing.
the socks have to be new.
Okay.
Bedding,
Specialists.
housewares?
We had all the bedding has to be new. I'm not sure about house.
Those
Housewares.
kinds of things, if they're new, yes. So, thanks for the Glendale residents for putting this together. That is it for the mayor's report, unless I'm missing something. Okay. All right, Mr. Lumsden, would you give us the administrator's report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. From one exciting topic to another, we are starting the process for the 2025 budget. Mr. Kreidler sent out an email over the weekend with some of the timeline details. My apologies for my voice. I went to the Bengals game yesterday. It didn't do much good, but I lost it. The committees should plan to start meeting after Wednesday, October 16th. Meeting with department heads now, getting information, data together, and have that information circulated prior to each of those committee meetings as they get scheduled. We'll hopefully be able to keep the same timeline that we have in years past, where we have a budget approved and ready to go before Thanksgiving, and then final approval before council at the December meeting, which is on the 2nd this year. So see no reason why we can't keep that timeline. For those curious, we are, as of right now, and that may adjust, we're applying a 2% increase for 2024. Now, of course, certain specific things will be evaluated as needed, but that will be the going rate, so to speak. A few other things from the last month. We are still working on the restoration at the village office. We had a public buildings meeting a few weeks ago, and now we're waiting on quotes on those updated designs. Should be receiving those, I would say, within the week. We were unsuccessful in our application for SORTA grant funding for the signal replacement projects on Congress. It's unfortunate that this year would be the year that SORTA would suddenly get competitive for that grant funding. But only the top quarter or third of projects were actually selected, which was kind of out of the norm for previous years. We are still going to apply for Ohio Public Works Commission funding through the state for the signal at Congress, Washington, and Coral. That signal's pretty dated, and there are very few pedestrian accommodations there. So we're going to do pretty much an intersection overhaul there. So there will be legislation for that application at next month's meeting for approval. But the match percentage on that is 70-30. So for $450,000 project will be approximately $135,000, which is still a significant savings given how much work is going to be going into that intersection. And then finally, utility bills were mailed out last week. And as always, folks should sign up for paperless billing. If you have questions, come talk to Spencer. And we'll put out billing data information later this week as far as comparisons to previous quarters and that kind of thing. So that is my report.
May I ask a question? Was there a notice included with the utility bills about the increase in rates?
Not with this round, no. We will continue notifying folks throughout this quarter. The increase goes into effect with usage beginning on October 1st. So we'll continue to put out information about the increase. It does remain on our website from when it was being discussed in utilities and council. But we'll continue to put out information about the increase and how it'll impact typical usage for folks.
Okay. Let's get on top of that, because I think there was a desire to have something go with the bills this go around. But let's
Okay.
get on top of that. and get-
Well, my apologies. I don't recall that. I missed that, but
Okay.
we'll get something out.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you call the other committees, please?
Finance Committee, please.
Finance Committee did not meet, but you'll, most of you, all of you will have seen the word, I heard from most of you. We're trying for Thursday, November 21st for a finance meeting, and then if need be, Monday, the 25th. And if you could let me, those I haven't heard from, if you could let me know about that Thursday especially, because if that doesn't work, we'll try for Tuesday, the 26th
Can we
as the
look right-
backup.
Can we look right now?
21st of 4, yeah.
Yeah, so Thursday, November 21st at 4 p.m. Hopefully, I'm pretty confident we can get it all done, but if we could save Monday, the 25th.
Is everybody
At
good
4
for those-
o'clock.
Is everybody good for those days?
No.
I know, Mike, you're out of town.
Monday, yeah.
You're out of town Monday?
You can do
No,
Monday.
I can't do Thursday, I can do Monday, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, everybody else looks pretty good? Okay.
And then you'll also see in that email, committee, what David talked about, committee budget meetings, 3rd, 4th week of October. And then, if you include David and the mayor and myself on those, we'll get all those organized. And that's it, Becky.
Okay. Thank you. Fire Committee, please.
Fire Committee met on September 16, and the minutes are online on the website. And we covered the fire hydrant replacement and maintenance project and talked about new business, including, very interesting, the arrival, and we got a personal tour of the Jaws of Life that we just received, and they've been getting some action here lately, so the timing of receiving that equipment was good. Our next meeting is November 7th, specifically to focus on the 2025 budget. Other than that, I turn it over to the chief.
Thank you. This past month was another busy month for the fire department, especially with the remnants of the hurricane coming through the village the last weekend there. We had about a dozen calls for service during that time, just with storm damage and limbs in the road and large trees. And it was very nice for the police department, public works department, and the fire department all to come together and quickly get those limbs and trees removed and open up the roadway. So appreciate your guys' help with that as well. They were able to move some smaller limbs, so it was nice to see all the departments coming together.
It was well done, so thanks to everybody.
Yeah, thank you. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Laws and Claims, please.
Yes, thank you. Laws and Claims met September 24th, and among a number of things we talked about, we had a spirited discussion about the proposed revisions to our chicken ordinance, and much public comment and discussion about that. And well, we talked about the NIC update from David, evaluation of some of their activities. And then also on the agenda was potential discussion about pods, trailers, temporary garages, and construction dumpsters. We didn't get into it much, but it will be on the next agenda. We are scheduled for a meeting this Thursday, October 10th at 4 p.m. here in council chambers. So So that's my report, and we'll be following up after the next meeting.
Great. Thank you. Parks and Recreation, please.
We have a committee meeting scheduled a little earlier than you wanted. It's October 15th at 3:30, assuming that still works for everyone, so we could accommodate all the committee members. So primarily, we will discuss the budget as well as just some general departmental updates. I will say I received a beautiful handwritten card from Jack Cook notifying us that the restored Boy Scout trail he's been working on in the Greenbelt is in the Oak Greenbelt is just about done. For those of you that don't know, there was a Boy Scout trail done. At the time, it was through the woods. There was a lot of honeysuckle there, and that kind of disappeared over the years. So Jack's been using the mulch from the village to lay down and reconstruct that path. So what remains is some small bridges and stairs in areas that need it. So you can find that about halfway up the Oak Road Greenbelt there as you go up the hill closer in towards the Woodlawn side.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Police Committee, please.
Police did not meet in September, and Nancy and Amy F., I will get in touch with you tomorrow to see about scheduling a committee meeting in late October, kind of pending on how the other meetings are scheduled. And the chief is in town, so it's your turn.
Thanks. Everybody should have a copy of the report I sent out. The only thing I have, if you have any questions, just let me know. The only thing I have is, everybody knows by now, we had a car launch the railroad tracks again. It was not a pursuit. It was a, I'm not sure what the gentleman was, in his mid-30s. We believe he doesn't know the area. Officer Barnell was sitting on Sharon Road at Summit when he turned off of Route 4 onto Sharon. But by the time Officer Barnell was able to get going, he was already probably going down the hill on Sharon towards the tracks. So I talked to David this morning. We're looking at some possible measures to try and slow that down when you get close to the railroad tracks.
I think that's a good idea, maybe a combination of police, streets, working together to figure out how do we get people to 25 miles an hour, maybe even up right here. But
Yeah,
how can we get that slowed down?
I'm not sure we're ever going to do it fully.
Okay. Well, we need to
We're thinking
exhaust-
maybe some rumble strips.
Yes. We need to
Something like
exhaust
that, or
every
something like we did
possibility.
on Congress where we ground the pavement
Okay.
just to get, so you feel it
I've seen some
somewhat.
very large speed bumps used down on
downtown.
near Delta Columbia
Yeah, they've
Parkway,
got
where
'em.
you come into that little shopping district area. They're big.
They're
and
huge.
They work.
Yeah,
They work. So
So.
yeah, I think we need to exhaust every possibility on this.
yeah,
An accident like that in the middle of the day with people going to UDF for the pizza.
exactly.
Okay.
And
So
we-
was this a runaway car or just
No,
a
he just-
speeding car?
just a speeding car.
Well, I mean, rumble strips are, speeding cars, it's like great, they're rumble strips.
So it needs to be something where.
Yeah, it needs to get your attention.
Get your attention. I
Well,
gotta
speed
slow down.
bumps,
I don't know if that's speed bump.
I'm seeing more and more center-focused speed bumps,
Mhm.
like on Springfield Pike and Carthage and beyond, so.
It's
Let's-
like the ones the
yeah.
mayor's talking about.
Yeah, let's bring this to a committee.
Yeah.
Right now is not the time, but let's get it to a committee and see if we can't come up with some ideas.
Thank you. Public Buildings and Historic Preservation, please.
As David went over, we met on September 30th to discuss some of the possible layouts for the renovation of the village office. And it was left that more exploration need to go into the cost of each of these, using actual people that we would be using. So we're still waiting on that information, and then we will be meeting again in a couple of weeks when we get some of that back. And that is
my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Streets, public improvements, and lights.
We're looking at 4 o'clock either on the 22nd or 23rd. Still waiting to hear from everyone on if there's a preferred day there.
October?
Yes, October 22nd or 23rd at 4. I think the committee members said that worked. We're waiting to make sure it worked for you and David.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I've been out of pocket a little bit. 23rd's a little better for me, but either one would work.
Either one is fine.
Okay, you can follow up over email and make sure that'll
Okay.
work. Okay, so also, we're mostly having a budget discussion as well as some just departmental updates. I was gonna, briefly bring up the issue about speeding and speed bumps, because there's been a lot of buzz, especially in social media about that, thinking what can we do? There's just a lot of concern about speeding cars. It's not just Glendale, it's everywhere, but, figuring out what is within our power to do and does it create a new problem? That's the task with any type of physical bumps or rumble strips. They have their downsides, so we gotta do our homework on that. I wanted to ask one question, David, about the Cole Avenue pipe replacement. Was that the type of thing where you just run new PVC into the old pipe and essentially you leave the old pipe in place around it?
Because the old pipe was burst, so it was the cavity was expanded to allow for the PVC to come in. So the old pipe essentially is in pieces under the ground, but the new pipe followed through the same opening in the road. Pardon me, that the old pipe did.
So if you were to look or dig, you'd still see old piping there because it's still
You'd see
leave it in place.
pieces of old pipe. The photos that he showed looks like they were from when they began excavation, which I'm not surprised to see that they damaged the old pipe during excavation. It is the old pipe after all, so it's not surprising to me. But no, the old pipe is effectively destroyed and replaced by the new pipe.
And obviously, it's working just fine because there
I've got no complaints.
backups or anything,
Right.
so.
Yeah, no complaints.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Utilities, please.
Utilities did not meet in September, and we will plan to meet on this coming Monday at 3:30 p.m. for the Utilities Committee meeting. And as was noted before, it's a little preliminary to actual budget discussions that David has been able to put together. So we'll do some preliminary talk about that
Is it 3:30?
at 3:30.
Okay. So that's committee reports. Is there a treasurer's report?
Yes, so I have provided our summary for the month of September, still doing pretty good. Things to note, as you know, the feds dropped their rates. Our checking account rates went from 2%, which was a steady 2% from the day we opened that account, to 1.8. Our money market, which is actually the best yielding account that we have right now, was at 4.8, and we're at 4.4 now. So the strategy is to keep as much as we can in money market right now and just feed checking account as needed. And then we'll see towards the end of the year where we are. But that's where we are.
Very good, thank you. And then clerk, you have a report, Madam Clerk?
Yes, so the state audit has completed their work in the office, so that part is all done. They are doing the rest of the work internally. We expect to hear at least preliminary results in the next couple weeks. So.
Sounds fantastic. That was fairly quick. Good.
Because we're awesome.
Would have been quicker if our office was dry, but you know.
That's true. This is true. Okay. So we move on now to old business. There is none, so new business. Had to turn the page. The new business, first item on the agenda is ordinance 2024-42, an ordinance authorizing amendment of the 2024 appropriations of the general fund and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lumsden, can you give us a synopsis of this?
Certainly, Mayor. So through our kind of coming into a landing with the 2024 budget, identified a few things that we need to adjust as we get to the end of the year. The first being that the police and fire fuel budgets need additional appropriations to get through the remainder of the year. The amounts listed here are based on the required amounts for the end of 2023. So they're inspired by those actual amounts spent on fuel in the fourth quarter of 2023. And then the other three are gas and electric bills, Duke bills, that are we need additional appropriations for. But one of the things that we're doing in order to offset and find better homes for these appropriations is reducing the traffic signals and public buildings budgets for those lines to offset the increases that are needed elsewhere. So the net impact of this ordinance is a little over $2,000 in total towards the general fund. But we're able to reduce those because those appropriations are being relocated elsewhere.
Recall when we budgeted, we were hoping that inflationary pressure on fuel was going to abate somewhat this year, which it did, but I think we were a little too hopeful. And but with both utility and gasoline, we're a little behind the 8 ball right now. Okay. So is there a motion for ordinance 2024-42?
So moved.
Second.
And is there a motion to dispense with the 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you call roll, please?
For ordinance 2024-42, to dispense with the 3 reads, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Baseman.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Verchot.
Aye.
For ordinance 2024-42, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Baseman.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Verchot.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 2024-43, an ordinance authorizing amendment of the 2024 appropriations of the Mayor's Court Computer Fund and declaring an emergency. David, can you let us know about this one?
Certainly, thank you, Mayor. The Mayor's Court Computer Fund is a separate fund within our budgets that receives revenue from court costs and court fines that are paid. The purpose of this fund is explicitly for the purchase of computer equipment for the Mayor's Court. So that is the computer, the software, hardware, all those sorts of things that go with, with office supplies, everything like that that goes with the operation of the Mayor's Court computer. And in addition to that, one of the things that we budgeted beginning in the year this year was for the purchase of a new computer for a Mayor's Court clerk that is in process right now. However, we've been notified by the IT vendor that handles the hardware and software that we need to upgrade the firewall hardware and the firewall software for the Mayor's Court server. That is about a $2,000 cost to do that. It could be taken from this special fund. The Mayor's Court Computer Fund currently has a balance over $30,000. And will continue to be added to it as more court fines and costs are paid. So anticipate this impact will be very, very small.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions? Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-43?
So moved.
Second.
And is there a motion to dispense with 3 reads?
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
For ordinance 2024-43, to dispense with the 3 reads, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Baseman.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Excuse me, Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Verchot.
Aye.
For ordinance 2024-43, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Baseman.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Verchot.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 2024-44, an ordinance authorizing amendment of the 2024 appropriations of the water and sewer funds and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lumsden, you're up again.
Thank you, Mayor. As we saw with the general fund, our assumptions for utility bills for water and sewer were also hopeful. So we need to increase those appropriations in order to pay our gas and electric bills on the water and sewer utilities through the remainder of the year.
So is there a motion for ordinance 2024-44?
So moved.
Second.
And is there a motion to dispense with the 3 reads?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
For ordinance 2024-44, to dispense with the three reads, Ms. Bensenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
For ordinance 2024-44, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, our final resolution is Resolution 2024-15, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission of Hamilton County and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Again, Mr. Lumsden, can you give us some background on this?
Thank you, Mayor. This is one of those that comes around every year in October. This is simply certifying that we agree with the amounts produced by our levies and then the rates for those levies. It's a fairly routine operation.
Yes. So, is there a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and I think we just, at this point, we call the roll?
Yes.
Okay.
For resolution 2024-15, Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Ms. Fleury.
Aye.
Ms. Rochelle.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, we have financial reports that were circulated for August and September. Thank you, David, for the September in a timely fashion. And is there acknowledgement of receipt for these reports?
Yes.
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 Any questions about the reports? Hearing none, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Record.
Thank you.
Pretty quick.